Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. My name is Heidi Roth, and I'm a registered dietitian with Tufts Healthcare Plan, as well as Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare Plan. So glad that you could join me here today, and let's get started. So just one thing I have, if you'll see me looking down, I have my computer opened up in front of me, and I have the chat box open. So please feel free to ask questions, comments. I love it when everyone can be interactive, and even though I can't see you or hear you, it's nice to be able to use the chat box and communicate. So let's get started. So our topic today is calming drinks. We're going to be making 2 quick cold drinks, and then as well as a warming golden latte, golden milk. So we will get started with our cold drinks first. Now, how are cold drinks calming? Why did I choose cold drinks? For several reasons. I think during the pandemic, maybe many of us started pouring ourselves maybe a nightly glass of wine. Maybe it was 1 or 2 glasses. And so, sometimes it's good to just maybe kind of, while you're cooking dinner, maybe cut back a little bit, and maybe you're looking for something else that's going to be a little bit more calming and a little bit of a treat at the end of the day, but still not high in sugar and alcohol free. So I thought I would start first with some tart cherry juice and kombucha. Why are these calming? Well, cherry juice tart cherry juice contains really, really high levels of melatonin. And melatonin is that hormone that can help you to sleep at night. And so it's been shown in several studies that tart cherry juice actually can help you sleep better. So, typically when you have a glass of wine, maybe you fall asleep very quickly, but then maybe you wake up in the middle of the night and you don't quite sleep as soundly. The other beverage here that can be calming, there's different beverages that contain probiotics. Does anyone know why probiotics can be calming? Probiotics, as we know, are what's live bacteria. Prebiotics is the food for the bacteria. So here we have kombucha as well as kefir. We're not going to do anything with the kefir today, but if you're interested, kefir has a lot of prebiotics. Where yogurt might typically only have 1 or 2 strains of probiotics, kefir has 10 to 12, so kind of like yogurt on steroids. But what do probiotics do for us? Well, probiotics help our gut to be healthy. They increase the beneficial bacteria in our gut, and multiple studies show that when we have a good gut microbiome, it can help actually decrease anxiety. There's several different mechanisms, but our gut and our brain talk to each other all day long. So if our gut is happy and healthy, then our brain's going to be happy and healthy too. And one of the best ways to do that is with some probiotics. So kombucha is basically a fermented type of tea, and you want to make sure that you're buying one that doesn't have crazy amounts of sugar in it. This one actually has 12 added grams of sugar for the entire bottle. Now, some of that is going to be fermented, of course. So, but kind of keep in mind that there is a little bit of added sugar in a lot of these kombuchas. But the cherry juice can be pretty tart, so it'll be nice to have a little bit of sweetness in there. So basically, when I make this, what you can do is you can get yourself a little bit of a fancy type of glass. If you're, making this as maybe a substitute for an alcoholic drink or a substitute for a glass of wine, I'm going to put my ice in there. 2/3 kombucha and like 1/3 of tart cherry juice, a splash of cherry juice. How much you want there. And we'll give that a stir up. Now the kombucha comes in different flavors. So this one is a gingerade. So I figured the ginger and the cherry would be good together. I'm just pulling out my chat box so if anyone wants to ask a question. So here we go. So it kind of looks a little bit like a glass of red wine, and while you're cooking or at the end of the day, you have your little special drink to sip. So kombucha can be quite tart, as well as the cherry juice, and a little bit sour, because anytime you ferment something, you get a lot of lactic acid, and it makes it a little bit sour. So I quite enjoy this drink, but I think it's good too sometimes that when you're new to kombucha, get some of the flavored types of kombucha. There's strawberry, this one's ginger, so you get a lot of the benefits, anti-inflammatory benefits of the ginger too. Okay, so there's a question, does that come in decaf? You know, that is a really, really great question. I don't honestly know how much caffeine is in kombucha. I would imagine that there's not that much. However, if you're really, really sensitive to caffeine, probably maybe you would want to have this a little bit earlier in the day and not, you know, maybe right before bedtime. I don't think there is that much caffeine in these, and that it probably does come in decaf. So that's an excellent question. I will be happy to provide the recipes after the webinar, certainly, and I will send them to our contacts at Harvard Pilgrim and Tufts. And then also another question here. Oh, I see another question too about tea at the end of the day and the decaf. Okay, so that's one thing. So for those worried about maybe the caffeine content of the kombucha and that are really sensitive to caffeine, we have a decaf other beverage here that you could make too. So this is another little thing that might be a little bit of a treat at the end of the day, and to replace your glass of wine as well when you're cooking dinner. So what I'm going to do here is, it's kind of fun to muddle, do a little bit of muddling and maybe use some sparkling water. So muddling is just a great way to kind of get some extra flavor out of some fruit and vegetables and herbs. And you don't need a muddler. You could even use the back of a spoon. But for this, I'm just gonna, take what you have in the fridge. I happen to have some cucumber slices in the fridge, so I'm gonna throw some cucumber slices in. If you had some berries or some clementines, you could muddle that. You could even use like a fresh pear or whatever you wanted to in terms of fruit. I always have some basil growing in my kitchen, so I'm just going to grow. I took some basil from my basil plant. I'll throw a little bit of that in there and give it a little quick muddle. You don't have to go crazy muddling it to a fine pulp. Just give it a quick muddle or so. And then maybe I'll throw in a little bit of lime juice, a squirt of lime juice. Then if you wanted to, you could add a tiny, tiny bit of, maple syrup or honey or something like that. I don't think it needs it. I'm just going to take my sparkling water. Now, I usually drink regular water throughout the day. I like to save the sparkling water as kind of like something special at the end of the day. So I have here my LaCroix sparkling watermelon. Watermelon goes really nicely with the basil and the cucumber, but you could use whatever flavor you wanted to. It's just one of the flavors that I like. So I'm going to put my ice in. And I see, thank you, somebody answered the question for us in terms of the milligrams of caffeine in kombucha, which is just 15. So thank you, whoever got that for us. That is a very minimal amount of caffeine, as I suspected. So it's not really that much. Okay, so now I'm just going to take my sparkling water and stir around. So there we go. And here's my kind of, to some extent, it's a little bit like a little mocktail, but it's just a gives it a little bit extra fanciness to your sparkling water at the end of the day and makes you feel like you have a little bit of a treat. That's good. It's good. This watermelon LaCroix is kind of a new flavor that I'm kind of crazy about. So there you kind of taste a little bit of the cucumber, a little bit of basil, and also looks pretty too. I'm going to put that here off to the side. Put this off to the side as well. Actually, I know me, I'm going to end up tipping that over. So I'm going to put that down here. So those are our cold drinks. Let's move on to warm drinks. So these I'm going to make what's called a golden milk. But first I'll show you some of the teas that I have. First of all, what I should say is that very interestingly enough, studies have shown that even when we hold something warm in our hands, it actually helps us to calm down. And so they've done studies with tea specifically, where just people drinking tea help decrease anxiety levels a little bit. And part of that is just holding something warm in your hands. So at the end of the day, before nighttime, I always like to have my kind of afternoon tea break around 2 or 3 o'clock. And so this golden milk that we're going to make, you could have it right before bed, you could have it sometime in the afternoon, but anytime that you want just even a little bit of calmness, a nice warm beverage to hold in your hands. So what kind of warm beverages could you have? Well, if we're talking, during the day, even a green tea, you could do a decaf green tea. This is one of the teas that I like. Because it's an organic green tea. And we know green tea is really, really high in antioxidants, specifically type of antioxidants that are catechins. And really, really, when we talk about healthy foods, green tea is really at the top of the list there. So you could do a nice green tea. If you're sensitive to caffeine, you could do a decaf one. Is anyone familiar with this mushroom coffees, mushroom teas and cocoa? This is a hot chocolate cocoa mix, and it's called 4-Sigmatic, and it contains a mushroom called reishi. And reishi mushroom is known to be a very calming mushroom, a very relaxing. It doesn't taste like mushroom at all. You can't taste the mushrooms in it. But what it is it's a medicinal mushroom. It's been known to help decrease stress levels, calming, help decrease blood pressure. What's interesting, just even amongst myself, I typically have either like the hot cocoa or the coffee in the afternoon with these medicinal mushrooms. And I have found that my blood pressure, even though it was fairly low to begin with, it has come down even lower since I started these medicinal mushrooms. So that's kind of one of the names. So this is the brand name of this is 4-Sigmatic, but there's lots of other brands out as well. I actually get it. This one is the coffee mix, and so whatever brand that you like, this just happens to be one of the brands that I like, and I get it through the mail. This one contains the medicinal mushroom called lion's mane. And lion's mane helps you to think. It actually helps you to focus and concentrate. So that's kind of what lion's mane is known for, but also what would be considered a medicinal mushroom. They call them medicinal mushrooms because typically these type of mushrooms are not eaten as a food. They tend to be dried and ground into a powder and added to different things. So that's kind of a big trend now, as you'll see coffees and teas and cocoa mixes with mushrooms in them. All right, so let's, and then also too, the other thing that I wanted to show you was before bed, lots of teas before bed. There's like sleepy time tea. This one's called Peaceful Slumber. I like these organic ones. These are nice. And this contains chamomile and lavender. Both chamomile and lavender are both herbs that are really beneficial for helping to sleep. Passion flower is another one that maybe you look for, a valerian tea. All of those teas are really great to helping you sleep at night. So maybe this wouldn't be the best one to have in the afternoon, but right before bed, that would be lovely. Okay, so now let's make our golden milk. Is anyone familiar with golden milk? Have you made it before? Have you heard about it? It's becoming a little bit more popular as well. Let me just see. I see one new chat here. Oh, interesting. Okay. Someone said, be careful with the valerian. It caused me to have horrible nightmares. Oh my goodness, I'm sorry about that. It's not really as far as I know, a known side effect of it, but it is, has been used quite extensively for sleep. So, clearly not a tea that you want to have. Okay, so to make golden milk is it has a beverage, a hot beverage that's been enjoyed in India for quite a while. Typically in India, they use a regular milk, a dairy milk, just regular cow's milk. But here in the US, as it's become more popular, people here tend to use plant-based milks. So I'm actually going to use soy milk, which is the milk that we're going to be using today. But what is golden milk? Golden milk in India is basically just turmeric and milk, and you heat it up and it's a very nice, warm, calming beverage. But as golden milk has become more popular, there's various spices that you can add to it to make it even tastier. The main component of golden milk is turmeric. Turmeric is a root. It's very similar to ginger in terms of its looks. It's kind of the same family. And turmeric has literally hundreds, thousands of studies on it showing that it can decrease inflammation. It's kind of maybe one of the main things that it's known for, but it's very good at decreasing inflammation, cancer prevention, contains some really, really powerful antioxidants in it. So is known to be an incredibly healthy root. Typically here in the US, you could use a fresh turmeric root for this and you could grate it, but it's really easiest to use the dried powder. And the dried powder certainly has, lots of benefits to it. So I'm going to make what's called a golden milk mix. I'm going to make a spice mix with it first. And then you can have it on hand and you don't have to mix it up every single time that you make it. So I'm going to use a 1/4 cup of the turmeric. Now be careful, turmeric, you can see how orange this is, that gorgeous orange color. It will stain your clothing. So just be careful, when you're cooking with curry, sometimes your spatula, if you have a white spatula, it gets stained a little bit. So just be careful that you don't end up staining it. So I have here some more turmeric. See that gorgeous orange, yellow orange color. Okay, so I've got a 1/4 cup of my dried turmeric powder in here. And turmeric, is fairly easy to find. I even just got this one. This is an organic turmeric. I got it at Trader Joe's. Now, really, you can add whatever spices you want. Typically, with turmeric, you always want to have it with pepper. And the reason why you want to have it with pepper is because pepper contains lots of phytochemicals that actually help the absorption and the utilization of turmeric. So a lot of times when you're taking like a turmeric supplement, which a lot of people do, you'll see if you read the label, sometimes it has like the black pepper added to it. And that's just so that turmeric, all the compounds in it, specifically curcumin, is more bioavailable. So, and not only that, the pepper is really quite delicious. So you can add anywhere from a 1/2 teaspoon to 1 teaspoon of pepper. I'm actually going to start off with 1/2 teaspoon of pepper. This is a freshly ground pepper, so it's pretty potent. And then you can add whatever other herbs and spices you like. Typically, some ginger is added as well. And so I'm going to add in 2 tablespoons of ginger, excuse me, 2 teaspoons of ginger. You can add in as much as you like, but I'm going to do 2 teaspoons. And this is just of the dried ginger. And this is a ginger from Penzeys Spices. I don't know if anyone's familiar with Penzeys. I live here in Arlington, and Penzeys is a spice store. You can buy their spices online, or you can go visit the store. And they just have really, really high quality spices. It's kind of fun when you visit the store, you can go and you can smell all the herbs and spices. So that's kind of a fun thing to do. And then I'm going to add in 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. And 1, 2, and cinnamon is known for helping to help decrease blood sugar levels. And then you could add in some cloves if you wanted to. You could add in a tiny, tiny bit of nutmeg. I am somewhat obsessed with cardamom. I love cardamom. I actually put it in my coffee every morning, a little bit of cardamom. So I'm going to add in a heaping half teaspoon of cardamom. This is a ground cardamom. And cardamom is known for specifically helping to help settle your stomach. It also has a lot of really powerful phytochemicals in it as well. So I'm going to add in half teaspoon of cardamom, and I'm going to give that a stir. And so this is basically my little spice mix here, so that when you're looking to make yourself some golden milk, that you don't have to kind of start from the beginning and do all these spices. So I'm going to put in 1 cup of my unsweetened soy milk. Now, you should use, when you're choosing what type of plant-based milk you want, you should use a milk that contains some form of fat. So I'm going to put 1 cup of milk there. And the reason is also, once again, when you're cooking with turmeric, it's much better absorbed if it has some form of fat in it. So you really wouldn't want to use something like an almond milk or rice milk. Those probably wouldn't be the best choices because they don't have any fat in, or they have very little fat in them. A coconut milk or a soy milk is better. Or what you could do is you could use the almond milk and maybe you add in a tiny little bit of coconut oil to it. Those are, also good things to add. So when we're talking about turmeric, a little bit of pepper and a little bit of fat also definitely helps the absorption of it. So I've got my milk in. I'm going to take 1 heaping teaspoon of my spice mix, and I'm going to add that. And you could add more or less as much as you wanted, but I would start with a heaping teaspoon of it per 1 cup of milk. Now make sure that you cover this up tightly, put some plastic wrap over it, kind of keep it in a cool, dark place. And maybe you put it in a container with like a Tupperware container with a lid. And then if you want, it's nice sometimes to add a little bit of sweetener to the golden milk as well. I'm going to use maple syrup. I think maple syrup, it goes really nicely in there, or a little bit of honey. Or you can certainly keep it out as well. Just watch the amount of sweetener that you're using. You don't necessarily want it to be a high sugar drink. But if you wanted to add a tiny bit, it makes it, a little bit of a treat there too. Basically, then you just take your whisk, whisk that up. If you're using regular milk, just keep a close eye on it. Regular milk tends to, once it starts boiling, it will go up and over your pan potentially. So just keep an eye on it. And honestly, you could even make this in the microwave too. Just mix up your spices and milk and put it in the microwave for 2 minutes or so, and that would also work as well. Okay, so I'm going to let that heat up for a little bit, and then we'll pour it out, and I'll show you what that looks like And were there any questions so far? Did anybody have any questions about anything that we made so far? I see here, oh, somebody asked me the name again of the mushrooms. And so I see somebody reply here, thank you. The reishi and chaga. Chaga is a medicinal mushroom that's specifically known to help support your immune system. Chaga actually grows on trees here in the north. It grows up a lot in like New Hampshire, but it's used a lot in Finland and Russia and some of those Scandinavian countries. Okay, and then somebody asked, was that Penzeys spices? Yes, the cardamom I used was from a little bit of a glare on there, sorry, a little hard to see. Penzeys spices. Someone said here, I have a specialty drink to sip slowly after dinner. I'm much less likely to crave sugary dessert or salty snacks. Excellent point. Yes, when you're having something like this after dinner, and this is your little bit of a treat after dinner, then you have it, you brush your teeth, and then you're done for the night. So that's a really great point too, is having one of these nice little beverages before you go to bed can be very not only calming, but also can kind of take care of that sweet tooth. All right, so this is warmed up now. So I'm going to go ahead, and you can see I'm going to pour it slowly, so you can kind of see how that gorgeous kind of yellow color there. And you've got some of the spices in there. And once again, feel free to experiment a little bit. If you wanted to kind of shake a little bit of cinnamon on top or some nutmeg on top. And then it's just a really, really warming drink. You have some spices in there. And it's delicious. So thank you so much, everyone. And thank you for attending here today, and your questions and your comments. And thank you to those of you who looked up the caffeine content of the kombucha tea and answering that question for us. So I appreciate it. Just going to look and see if we have any last minute questions here. And let's see. Okay, some more questions about kombucha. Someone here also replied it to us that in the Q&A that it was 15 milligrams per serving. So thank you so much for looking that up for us. And I'm seeing one more comment here. Somebody said, never heard of golden milk. This looks like a great break from hot cocoa or hot toddies for the winter. Absolutely, it's something nice little change. So, all right. I'm not seeing any more questions. Thank you all so much for joining us here today. And I hope you're able to make some of these calming drinks as well. So thank you again. Cheers.